Hey there, we are doing the follow-up lecture 14 here to complete your notes. This is on section 10.5 on integers, multiplication and division. So we want to go through, and we already did talk a little bit about this in class, but we want to make sure we get it in your notes. The rules for integers. So for multiplication, we had certain things that we did in order with our chips and our number lines. But now we want to kind of put this all together. So let's think through our number lines really quickly and see if we can find the shortcut. So when you take a positive times a positive. Let's see if I can do this correctly. Positive times a positive, right? You know you're going to get a positive number. This is groups of things. So this is going to be positive. When you take a negative times a negative, right? Well, let's think about our number line real quick. So if we've got a negative times a negative, that means that we are going to look at the negatives, but then we're going to go backwards. And so that means we're going to end up with a positive answer. Okay. When we take a negative times a positive on my number line, we are going to look in the direction of the first one. So we're going to look at the negatives and we're going to go forwards because the second number is positive. So we're headed in that direction. And that's going to mean we're going to get a negative answer. And then when we do positive times negative on your number line, you are going to look in the positives, but then you're going to go backwards and you're going to end up in the negative direction. So notice what's happening here. Whenever we have two positives or two negatives, they both become positive. And whenever we have one of each, they end up being negative. So what we say here, the rule of thumb that we use is that when we multiply two integers, two negatives make a positive, whereas one negative will remain negative, okay? And that's the rule that you're used to, but you can see where it comes from when we look at our number lines, right? It's very easy to kind of identify that. For division, the same kind of rule applies, right? So for division, same rule as multiplication, because you rewrite it as multiplication. Okay, so then what we also want to do here is we want to answer the question that's really here, which is the following rules to divide integers using two colored chips. So what do we do with our chips? So we start by rewriting as multiplication. That's our step one. Step two, the divisor, right? And let's write that out for a second. So when you have something like negative 10 divided by 2 equals negative 5, this is your dividend. This is your divisor. And this is your answer, which is the quotient. So when I reference them, that's what I'm talking about. So the divisor is the number that you're dividing by. And so when you switch to multiplication, that becomes the first number. So this is 2 times what, meaning negative 5, gives me negative 10. So the divisor is what your group looks like. If the quotient, or we should, the dividend is what you want to make. Number 4, if they are the same color or type, depending on how you're coding yours, then we put in groups until we have our target number. So our answer is positive because we put in. Right? We put in groups. So it's the number of groups that you put in. Step 5, if they are opposite colors or types, then we start with the target number of 0 pairs. We take away groups of our divisor until we have our dividend. Left. The number of groups we take away is our answer. Which is negative because we're taking away. Okay. And so that's how our chips work. So we start by rewriting as multiplication. The divisor is what your group looks like. So in our example up there, my group is going to be 2 positive chips or 2 yellow chips. The dividend is what you want to make. That's my target. And so -10 is what I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make 10 red ones. So my group is 2 yellows and I'm trying to make 10 reds. They're opposite colors, so I'm jumping down to number 5. So I'm going to start with 10 0 pairs and I'm going to take away groups of 2 yellows until I have 10 reds. Okay, and then the number of groups that I take away is my answer. So I'm taking away 5 groups, so my answer is negative.